Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to break down a framework that really changed the game for how the financial world talks about climate change. We're going to dig into the 7 core principles that make climate-related financial reporting actually, work.
And let's just kick things off with this core idea from Michael Bloomberg. He actually chaired the very task force we're about to get into, and this quote, well, it just nails it. For the whole global economy to work right, it needs clear, honest information. Simple as that. But that begs a really big question, right? Your standard financial report, it's great at showing you last year's profits. But what about a risk that's kind of sneaky, one that builds up slowly over decades and touches, well, everything? How do you even begin to put a price on that? Okay, let's dive right into this. Before this whole framework came along, you could seriously say the market was basically flying blind when it came to climate change. I mean, all the instruments on the dashboard were working, but a huge, and I mean huge chunk of the landscape was completely invisible.
Because at the end of the day, that's the whole point of a market, isn't it? It's supposed to look at all the information out there, weigh the risks against the potential rewards, and then point money, the capital, to where it can do the most good. It's all about making smart bets so money can grow and create value, instead of just disappearing.
So just try to picture the information gap investors were dealing with. On one side, you've got all the standard stuff you'd see in an annual report. But on the other side, you have these enormous, economy-shifting forces that were just missing from the picture. What's the risk to a company's entire business model as we move to a low-carbon economy? What's the risk from actual physical events? This stuff just wasn't being talked about in a consistent way.
And look, this isn't just some academic theory. This has massive real-world consequences. It means that billions, maybe even trillions of dollars were flowing to companies that looked amazing on paper, but were completely unprepared for the reality of climate change. And that creates a system-wide risk, a domino effect waiting to happen across the whole economy.
So, to fix this problem, this market flying blind, the Financial Stability Board, which is a global body that keeps an eye on the entire financial system, they stepped in. They put together a group with one very clear mission: create a common language, a single rule book for how we talk about climate risk in financial terms. And here it is, the hero of our story, the TCFD, the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures. Now, the key thing here is that it was an industry-led group. They brought together the people who actually use and prepare these reports to figure out what information was truly needed to make better decisions. So the really crucial point is they weren't trying to start from scratch. There were already tons of different reporting standards out there, but they were all over the place, fragmented, inconsistent, and they often didn't even connect back to the financial bottom line. The TCFD's job was to cut through all that noise and create one single, globally understood framework.
And what they came up with is actually brilliant in its simplicity. It's all built on these 4 core pillars that honestly just make sense for any well-run company. First, governance. Who's in charge of this stuff? Second, strategy. How does this affect our actual business plan? Third, risk management. Okay, how do we find and deal with these risks? And finally, metrics and targets. How do we actually measure our progress? These pillars basically set the stage for what you need to report.
All right, now let's get to the real heart of it, because just reporting on those 4 pillars isn't enough. To make sure all that information is actually useful, the TCFD created a foundation of 7 key principles. This is the secret sauce. This is how you report effectively.
And this, right here, is the absolute game changer. The TCFD knew that just dumping a bunch of data into a report wasn't going to solve anything. The information had to be, and this is the key phrase, decision useful. That means an investor, a lender, an insurer, anyone could look at it and make a smarter, more informed choice.
So think of these 7 principles as the ultimate quality control checklist. Is the information actually relevant to the business? Is it specific and not just some generic statement? Is it clear enough for a normal person to understand? Is it consistent from one year to the next and comparable to other companies in the same industry? And of course, is it reliable and provided on a timely basis? If not, it's not useful.
And as you can see, these principles come straight from the official 2017 TCFD report. This isn't just a nice idea somebody came up with. This is the foundational DNA of the entire reporting framework, designed to create a bedrock of high-quality, trustworthy information.
So what's the big picture here? Why does all this matter? Why would some of the smartest people in finance spend 18 months hashing all this out? What's the real impact of putting these principles into action?
Well, the goal was always huge: widespread, global adoption.
The whole idea was to get climate risk out of the niche sustainability report and put it right in the middle of the mainstream annual financial filing. You know, the one document that the CEO, the board, and every serious investor actually reads. It's about making climate risk a standard topic in the boardroom.
And the task force was pretty smart about it. They laid out this 5-year roadmap because they knew this wouldn't happen overnight. It would start small with the pioneers, the early adopters. Then, as everyone else saw the benefits, the momentum would build until by year 5, it would just be, well, a normal part of doing business.
And the final payoff? A much healthier financial system. I mean, think about it. An investor's looking at two companies. On paper, they look identical. But with this new data, they suddenly see that one company has critical infrastructure in a major flood zone, while the other is pouring money into new, resilient technologies. The choice becomes obvious. That's what we call smarter capital allocation. Money starts flowing towards the companies that are built to last, making the whole economy stronger.
And all of this leaves us with one final powerful thought. For decades, the market had no way to talk about climate risk in financial terms. Now, there's a common language, and it's being adopted all over the world. So the question isn't if companies will speak this language anymore, it's what's going to happen to the ones who don't.